All right, let's dive in. Today's deep dive is all about something you guys specifically requested, personal growth goals.
Definitely a popular one.
And we're going to be taking a look at a source called Setting Personal Growth Goals, How to Create Lasting Change by Yimam B.
Great source.
Yeah. And this deep dive is really about, how to unlock your potential. It's almost like creating this roadmap to the best version of yourself.
That's a great way to put it.
Right. So we're going to be talking about some pretty cool stuff like visualization techniques,
Yeah.
celebrating those small wins,
Very important. Yeah.
and using this thing called the SMART framework.
Love the SMART framework.
Yeah. So there's a lot to unpack here.
Absolutely.
What I found really interesting is how this source really emphasizes personal growth as a journey to becoming the best version of yourself.
It's not just about, self-improvement or like checking off boxes.
Right. It's more about figuring out who you want to be
Exactly.
and then setting goals that actually help you get there. But before we even get into the how-to, let's talk about the why.
Okay.
Why are these personal growth goals so important?
Right.
Like, can't we just go with the flow? Wing it?
Well, a lot of people try to, but, this source really highlights that having goals gives you direction and purpose. It's almost like having a GPS for your life,
I like that.
guiding you through those moments when you might feel lost.
Yeah.
Remember you were telling me about feeling stuck in your career a while back?
Oh, for sure.
Having clear goals can really help navigate those feelings
Absolutely.
and create a path forward.
Makes total sense. Like having a North Star,
Mm.
something to keep you on track.
Exactly.
And speaking of staying on track, this source talks about using something called the SMART framework
Yes.
for setting goals.
One of my favorites.
Now, I've heard of this, but just to refresh my memory,
Of course.
what does SMART stand for?
So SMART stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound.
Okay.
Think of it like building a house. Specific is your blueprint you wouldn't start building without a clear plan, right?
Right.
Measurable is like tracking your progress. Are you on budget, on schedule?
Okay. Got it.
Achievable means making sure you're not setting yourself up for failure with, unrealistic expectations.
Right. So like saying, I want to learn Spanish is a bit vague.
Exactly.
Whereas I want to be able to have a 15-minute conversation in Spanish with a native speaker in 6 months.
There you go.
That's much smarter.
That's much smarter. That brings us to relevant. Your goal should align with your values and your overall vision for your life. So for you, learning Spanish might be relevant to that dream trip you have of traveling through South America
One day.
one day. And finally, time-bound. This just adds a deadline.
Okay.
Creates urgency and keeps you accountable.
Makes sense. Okay. So now let's move on to something I find super intriguing.
Okay.
Visualization.
Oh, yes.
I am a big believer in the power of positive thinking and really picturing what you want.
And this source explains that visualization goes beyond just daydreaming.
Okay.
It's about vividly imagining yourself achieving that goal, feeling those emotions of success,
Right.
and really embodying that achievement.
So you're saying it's more than just seeing it.
Exactly.
You have to feel it.
Feel it.
You were talking about wanting to run a marathon.
Yes.
Imagine yourself crossing that finish line, feeling that rush of accomplishment.
Exactly.
That's the power of visualization.
Yes,
It's
yeah,
like
it-
mental rehearsal
Absolutely.
for success.
Yes.
And the source also talks about affirmations. What's the
Yeah.
deal with those?
So affirmations are those positive statements that you repeat to yourself
Okay.
to reinforce belief and counteract any negative self-talk you might have. For example, this source uses the affirmation, I am capable and confident in all that I do.
I like that.
By repeating this, you're essentially rewiring your brain for success.
I love that. Training your mind
Absolutely.
to focus on the positive.
Exactly.
But let's be real for a second. Oh,
We all hit bumps in the road.
oh, for sure.
What happens when those inevitable setbacks show up?
Right. Well, this is where staying committed to your goals and learning from those setbacks really comes in.
Okay.
This source emphasizes that personal growth isn't always smooth sailing.
Yeah.
You're going to face challenges. You might stumble, but that's okay.
Right.
It's all part of the process.
So it's about bouncing back and adapting,
Exactly.
not letting those setbacks derail us completely.
Yeah, the source actually reframes setbacks as opportunities
Okay.
for learning and growth.
Interesting.
Remember when you shared that experience of not getting that promotion you really wanted?
Oh, yeah.
Instead of seeing it as a failure, think about what you learned from that experience and how you can use it to improve your approach in the future.
Such a good point. It's about turning those setbacks into stepping stones.
I love that. Stepping stones.
And speaking of steps, this source highlights something that's so important, celebrating those small wins.
Oh, yes.
Why is that so crucial? Well, celebrating small wins is like fuel for your motivation.
Okay.
You told me about your goal of writing a novel.
Yeah, it's a work in progress.
Instead of waiting until it's published to celebrate,
Yeah,
what if you celebrated finishing each chapter?
I like that.
Those small victories help maintain momentum and remind you that you are capable of making progress.
It's like giving yourself little rewards along the way.
Exactly.
And who doesn't love a good reward, right? But let's be honest. Sometimes, even with the best intentions, life gets in the way.
It happens.
Any advice from the source on staying motivated when things get tough?
Well, besides celebrating those small wins,
Okay.
the source stresses the importance of connecting with your why.
Our why.
Yes, remember that marathon you want to run.
Yes.
Why is that goal important to you? Is it about pushing your limits?
Mm,
Raising money for a cause that you care about?
that's a good point.
Connecting with that deeper motivation can be really powerful,
Yeah.
especially when you're tempted to give up.
That's such a valuable reminder. Our why is like our inner compass,
Absolutely.
guiding us back to what truly matters.
Yes.
But what happens when our goals change? Or we realize they're not quite right anymore?
That's a great question. And the source acknowledges that personal growth is a continuous journey. As you evolve, your goals might shift, and that's okay.
Yeah.
It's not about being rigid. It's about being flexible and adapting as you learn and grow.
So it's more about embracing the process
Exactly.
and allowing ourselves to adjust course along the way.
Absolutely.
Remember when I decided to switch careers?
Yes. Big change.
That was a major shift in my goals, but it ultimately led me to a path that was more aligned with my passions and values.
Exactly. And, something that really stood out to me in this source was
Yeah.
it was the emphasis on self-compassion.
Yeah, it's so easy to get caught up in, the pursuit of our goals that we forget to be kind to ourselves
Right.
along the way.
It happens.
So what does this source say about, cultivating self-compassion?
Well, the source encourages us to approach our personal growth journey with a sense of gentleness and understanding.
Okay.
It reminds us that, setbacks are inevitable.
Yeah.
And it's okay to make mistakes.
Right.
Instead of criticizing ourselves, we can choose to offer ourselves support and encouragement,
I love that.
just like we would to a good friend.
That's a great analogy. So it's about being our own best cheerleader
Exactly.
instead of our own worst critic.
Yes.
How do we actually practice that
Right.
self-compassion?
So the source suggests a few practical tips.
Okay.
One is to pay attention to our self-talk. Notice those negative thoughts and challenge them with kindness.
Okay.
Another tip is to practice mindfulness.
Mindfulness.
Yeah. By being present in the moment, we can observe our thoughts and feelings without judgment,
Right.
allowing ourselves to simply be.
And speaking of mindset, something that really resonated with me from the source was the discussion of visualization.
Yes. Visualization is so powerful.
I
I think it's often underestimated.
agree. I used to think it was just a bit woo-woo,
I know what you mean.
But now I understand there's actually science behind how it works.
Yeah, the source explains that when we vividly imagine ourselves achieving our goals, we're essentially creating a mental blueprint for success.
Okay.
We're training our brains to focus on that desired outcome
Right.
and activating the same neural pathways that would be engaged if we were actually experiencing it.
That's so fascinating. Like our brains can't really tell the difference between a vividly imagined experience
Exactly.
and a real one.
Yeah, so by repeatedly visualizing success,
Right.
we're actually priming ourselves to achieve it.
That's so cool.
And, this source also emphasizes incorporating all of our senses into our visualizations.
Greatly.
It's not just about seeing that desired outcome. It's about feeling it, hearing it, smelling it, even tasting it.
Wow.
The more immersive the experience,
Yeah.
the more powerful the impact on our subconscious mind.
I like that. The source gives an example of visualizing achieving a fitness goal. It suggests not only imagining yourself looking fit and toned,
Right.
but also feeling the energy coursing through your body,
Yes.
hearing the sound of your sneakers hitting the pavement,
Exactly.
even tasting that refreshing water you're drinking after your workout.
I love those details.
Right.
They really bring the visualization to life.
Yeah.
Speaking of making things impactful, the source also talked about affirmations.
Yes, those positive statements.
Yeah, the ones we repeat to ourselves to reprogram our subconscious beliefs.
Right. The source uses the example, I am capable and confident in all that I do.
Such a powerful one.
It is.
Because it speaks to our inherent potential and reinforces our belief in our ability to achieve our goals.
I think a lot of people shy away from affirmations because they feel a bit cheesy
Oh, yeah.
or awkward.
Yeah.
But I found that when you choose affirmations that really resonate with you and you repeat them consistently,
Yeah.
they can have a profound impact on your mindset.
Absolutely. The key is to find affirmations that feel authentic to you and align with your personal values.
Okay.
The source also emphasizes repeating them with conviction
Okay.
and feeling. It's not just about mindlessly reciting the words.
Right.
It's about embodying the energy of the affirmation.
Embodying.
Yes.
It's about believing in those words.
Yes.
And allowing them to really sink in.
Sink into your subconscious mind.
And something I appreciate about this source is that it acknowledges that even with the best intentions,
Yeah.
we're all bound to face setbacks
Absolutely.
along our personal growth journeys.
It's part of the process.
It is. So
Yeah.
the source encourages us to view those setbacks as opportunities
Mm-hmm.
for learning and growth.
It's about adopting a growth mindset,
Yeah. Right.
seeing challenges as opportunities to stretch ourselves
Yeah.
and develop resilience.
So it's like a shift in perspective from seeing setbacks as failures to seeing them as valuable lessons.
And the source offers some helpful strategies for dealing with setbacks.
Okay.
One is to remember your why.
Our why.
Yes, when you're feeling discouraged, reconnect with your deeper motivation for pursuing your goals.
Right. So important. Like that's our anchor,
Exactly.
our guiding light.
It reminds us why we're putting in the effort.
Yes.
And helps us to stay committed even when things get tough.
For sure.
Another strategy this source suggests is to reframe the setback as a learning experience.
Oh.
Instead of viewing it as a failure,
Right.
ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can I adjust my approach in the future?
It's about turning those setbacks
Yeah.
into stepping stones on our path to growth.
Love that.
And speaking of steps, this source emphasizes the importance of celebrating small wins.
Oh, yes, crucial.
Why is that so important?
Well, celebrating small wins is like fuel for our motivation. You told me about your goal of writing a novel. Instead of waiting until it's published to celebrate, what if you celebrated finishing each chapter?
I see what you're saying.
Those small victories help maintain momentum and remind you that you are capable of making progress.
It's like giving yourself little rewards along the way.
Yeah.
Acknowledging your efforts and keeping your spirits high.
Absolutely.
But even with those small wins, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Staying motivated can be challenging.
Oh, yeah, it happens.
What does the source suggest for maintaining motivation when things get tough?
Well, in addition to connecting with your why and celebrating small wins,
Okay.
the source recommends creating a supportive environment for yourself. Surround yourself with people who believe in you and your goals.
That's so important. Our social circles can have a huge impact on our motivation and success.
Absolutely. Who we spend our time with influences our thoughts, our beliefs, and ultimately our actions.
Right. We become who we surround ourselves with.
Exactly. And the source also suggests seeking out mentors or coaches who can offer guidance and support along the way.
Yeah.
Having someone who's already achieved what you're striving for
Right.
can provide invaluable insights
Sure.
and encouragement.
It's like having a guide on your journey.
Exactly.
Someone who can help you navigate those challenges and celebrate the victories.
Yes. And, this brings up something I find particularly fascinating about this source.
What's that?
It's how the source really encourages us to view personal growth, not as a destination,
Okay.
but as a continuous journey.
I see what you're saying.
It's not about reaching some imaginary finish line and saying, okay, I'm done growing now.
Right.
It's about embracing this ongoing process of, learning, evolving, becoming the best versions of ourselves.
And this source really gives us this practical and inspiring framework for doing just that.
Absolutely.
From setting those SMART goals to using visualization and affirmations, it's packed with tools and strategies that anyone can use.
It really is like a toolbox filled with everything you need
Right?
to build a more fulfilling and meaningful life.
And it all comes back to remembering our why.
Yes, your why is so important.
All right. That's our North Star.
Your guiding light.
It reminds us why we even started on this path.
Exactly.
And it keeps us motivated even when things get tough.
Especially when we hit those inevitable setbacks.
Right, exactly.
And speaking of setbacks, I think the source does a great job of reframing them
Yeah.
as opportunities for learning and growth.
It's about shifting our perspective,
Mm-hmm.
from seeing setbacks as failures
Right.
to seeing them as valuable lessons.
And the source encourages us to ask ourselves, what can I learn from this experience? How can I use this setback to improve my approach in the future?
Turning those setbacks into stepping stones
Stepping stones, exactly.
on our path to growth.
And something else that stood out to me from the source was the emphasis on celebrating those small wins.
Yes, so important.
It is because it helps maintain momentum,
Mm.
keeps our spirits high.
It's about acknowledging our progress. Absolutely giving ourselves credit for all that effort we're putting in.
You mentioned earlier you wanted to start a meditation practice
I do.
instead of waiting until you've meditated for, a certain number of days.
Right.
How about celebrating the fact that you showed up on the cushion today,
Okay.
even if it was just for 5 minutes?
That's a good point.
It's about finding those small victories along the way
Hmm.
and taking the time to savor them.
I like that.
The source ends with a really powerful message.
Okay, what's that?
It says, you have the power to create lasting change. Start today.
Ooh, I love that.
It's a reminder that we're not passive bystanders in our own lives.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have the agency to shape our future and create the life we desire.
It's about taking ownership
Exactly.
of our personal growth journeys, making conscious choices that align with our goals and values.
And to help you do just that, the source leaves us with this thought-provoking question. What one goal will you commit to today to start creating lasting change?
What one?
Yeah, think about that for a moment. It doesn't have to be a huge, overwhelming goal.
Right.
Start small. What's one step you can take today to move closer to the person you want to become?
Such a great question for our listeners to ponder.
It is.
Because it's about taking all the insights and inspiration we've talked about today and actually putting them into action.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, personal growth isn't just about reading books or listening to podcasts.
Right.
It's about making real changes in our lives.
It's about showing up for ourselves day after day.
Yes.
Taking those consistent actions.
However small they may seem.
And those lead to big transformations over time.
Exactly.
So there you have it, folks.
A deep dive into
Setting personal growth goals, how to create lasting change by Yimam B.
Such a fantastic resource.
It is.
For anyone looking to embark on a journey of self-discovery and growth.
Absolutely. We encourage you to check out the full source material
Yes.
for even more insights.
And remember, the power to create lasting change lies within each of you.
It does.
Start today and watch as you transform your life, one goal at a time.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
We'll catch you next time.